Welcome aboard the Athletics Can't Wait Jets podcast, your nonstop shop for all things Jets. Now here are your hosts, Tim McMaster and Connor Hughes. Listen safely.
Can't wait.
Tim McMaster and Connor Hughes here with expected but breaking news. Adam Gase has been fired by the New York Jets after a 28-14 loss to the Patriots in Week 17. The Jets finished the season 2-14. Gase finishes his time in New York 9-23 overall. We're going to take your questions tonight. We're going to react to the news. We're going to see what's going to happen immediately for the Jets going forward. Connor, though, let's start big picture. Where did this all go wrong?
That's a good one, man. Good question. I think that honestly, where
at the beginning,
yeah, seriously though, right at the beginning, I think honestly where this one took a turn, in my opinion, was the way that the Jets had gone about hiring Gase. I remember talking to people like right when the Jets had hired Adam, because it obviously didn't make too much sense to me at the time. And the reason that it didn't make too much sense to me at the time was obviously I had been doing research on guys the Jets could hire. And just like everyone else, you heard the names. The Cliff Kingsbury was like that hot name that was out there. Matt Rule, obviously. Mike McCarthy was the guy that obviously the Jets were perceived to be like he was going to be number one on their list, right? It was going to be Mike McCarthy, and Mike McCarthy was going to be the guy that the Jets had, and they needed and all that fun stuff. When Adam Gase started surfacing in there, it was almost like, okay, they're doing their due diligence. And then suddenly it came down to, no, it's not just due diligence. They're hiring Adam Gase. And when I made some calls to these people, and when I made some calls to people that I trust, and what they said was like, the Gase experiment can work. Gase still has a good mind. Gase is still a guy that can undeniably be an effective head coach. It's just he needs to kind of break out of his ways, and then he needed a guy. And a lot of people kind of related it to me and parlayed it to me as somebody who would benefit almost from taking a step back, assessing why things went wrong, and then diving back into it. And when the Jets hired him right away, obviously that didn't happen. Gase didn't have any time to reflect. He was basically fired from the Dolphins, and just a few weeks later, he's the new Jets head coach. So I think where it went wrong was Adam was so hell-bent on proving that his system that he developed and his system that he built and his system that was so effective in Denver could also be effective in New York. And that it didn't fail in Miami because of Adam. It failed because of all these myriad of other reasons. But that same system was going to work with the Jets, and he was going to make it work. And there were all of these situations and all of these things that came about that was, in my opinion, Gase trying to fit this square peg into a round hole. That it was Adam not thinking about what Jamison Crowder does well and ways that he can amplify the play of Jamison Crowder, and not what Sam Darnold does well and ways to amplify the play of Sam Darnold, and not what this player does well or that player does well, but about how he can make those players work within his system and his scheme. And it just didn't work. And I think that the one thing that people don't get right about Adam, and the one thing that is very much lost in this failure and where things went so wrong, is that it's not like Adam was not this guy that things went so terribly off for the Jets these last 2 years, and he just kind of went the route of, I'm just collecting a paycheck. That he checks out for last guy in, first one out. He goes to these games, gets beat, goes off, does whatever, like that kind of thing. That wasn't what it was with Adam. This was a guy that spent countless nights in that facility sleeping at his office, trying to figure out a way to make this work, and breaking down the film and watching the film to the point of exhaustion, trying to figure out a fix. And I think that at some point, Adam probably did figure out what was wrong, but he overthought it, and he went back and he watched more film, and then he ended up making it even more complicated and going out and even further and just ending up again failing to find the fix. And it's tough because I do think that Adam, he still has the same offensive mind that was successful in Denver and successful in Chicago. And he still does have that in him. I think he would benefit from that, like taking a step back And he would have benefited from taking a step back 2 years ago. And unfortunately, he didn't. He dove right back in it. And it didn't work for the Jets, and it didn't work for Adam. And now Adam is looking for a new job, and the Jets obviously are looking for a new coach.
Yeah, they certainly are. And they're going to look for that. I guess, we found out, and you have a story out right now already about how they're going to go about looking for that new head coach. And it's going to be spearheaded by, I think, the guy that the fan base wants to hear is spearheading this. Not the Johnsons, not Christopher Johnson, but Joe Douglas is in charge, correct?
Yes, it's Joe Douglas. It is Joe Douglas's show. Now, make no mistake about it. Jaime, the Jets team president, he's going to be involved in this. Christopher Johnson is going to be involved in this. They are all going to have a say in some way, shape, or form. But this is Joe's show. It's going to be Joe who's picking out the type of traits that he wants in a head coach and that he believes should be in the head coach. It is going to be Joe that is conducting the majority of these interviews. It's going to be Joe who's eventually going to kind of have the majority of the say, and this is the head coach that I want. And obviously he can't go Rambo and just say, I'm hiring this guy, and if Christopher hates him and Jaime hates him, then, Joe's still going to hire him. It's not going to work like that. It is going to be a team effort, but it is Joe Douglas running point. It is Joe Douglas who is going to be working through this entire thing. And Christopher Johnson's going to be privy to any and all discussions. Christopher Johnson's going to be aware of any and all discussions. This is going to be a situation where it's not like I said, Christopher's like, okay, I hired Joe Douglas. He's my general manager. I'm going to go vacation wherever I want to go. That's not going to be happening. Joe's going to be running point. It's going to be Joe Douglas's job primarily to find this guy. And I think that a lot of people are going to be deferring a lot to what he says.
All right, so let's get right into the questions coming in through the chat, because we wanted this reaction podcast, this experience, to be about the fans getting their chance to weigh in and talking through this. We'll have a full Can't Wait podcast coming up on Monday where we'll dive into this more as well. But get some questions in from you. And the first one, Connor, these are all going to be in the same general area, obviously. But Carlos Espinal wants to know, when do you think the head coach is actually hired? Basically, what is the time frame for this? Are we looking at a couple of weeks? Is this going to be a long-term deal where they leave every stone or don't leave any stone unturned?
This is going to be an extensive search. This is not going to be the Jets have one guy in mind. They are signaling in on that one guy, and they are going to go and hire that one guy, and that guy is going to be their head coach. This is not going to be like, all right, we want this guy. We already have him done. We're flying him in. We're interviewing him. Done. We'll get the Rooney Rule, how we have to check all those boxes. But this is our head coach. We want him. We're hiring him. Done. That's not what it's going to be. If you know anything about Joe Douglas, if I can express anything or describe Joe Douglas in any way to any amount of people, he is a chess player. This ain't checkers. This ain't tic-tac-toe. I mean, he is going to be somebody who has every I dotted, who has every T crossed, who lifts every stone, checks underneath, puts it down, lifts it up again, and checks it again. I mean, he is not going to miss anything, and he is going to extensively search and find the guy that he believes is the top candidate for the Jets. And this isn't something where the guy has to be a team's head coach or like has past head coaching experience. I'm sorry. This is not something where the guy has to be a young, innovative offensive mind. This isn't something where the guy has to be the sexy name who everyone wants and covets, but the Jets throw so much money at him that he has to come to the Jets. No, Joe Douglas is going into this, and he is trying to find the Jets a head coach. And I think that is a mistake that this team has made the last several coaching cycles, that they haven't necessarily gone the route of finding a head coach. When they hired Rex Ryan, they wanted to make a statement. They wanted the brash guy, the one who was going to steal the headlines from the Giants and be the attention grabber and not kiss the rings to Bill Belichick, and they brought him in. It worked from that initial jolt that they got for those back-to-back AFC championship runs, but then it eventually kind of fell down. And then they went with the Todd Bowles route, but Todd Bowles, as so many know, was not the Jets' top candidate here. He was not the guy that they wanted right off the bat. That's not what Joe Douglas, or that's not what Todd Bowles was. They wanted Doug Marrone, and then obviously outside factors factored in there, which made the Jets go a different direction. So they went to Todd Bowles. He was like that coordinator that deserved the head coaching job didn't really work. This past coaching cycle with Adam Gase, they went into it with Sam Darnold as the priority 1, 2, and 3, that they weren't looking for a head coach. They weren't looking for a guy that was going to, captivate the entire team. They wanted a coach that was going to make Sam Darnold a franchise quarterback. And they looked at Adam. They saw his offensive prowess. They saw quarterback whisperer. They saw what he did with Peyton Manning, how he got good play out of Jay Cutler. And they were like, that's the perfect guy for us. The Jets don't need Adam Gase. They don't need Todd Bowles. They don't need Rex Ryan. They don't need Sean McVay. What the Jets need to do is they need to go out and they need to find themselves, and Joe Douglas is going to go through every possible method to do so, but to find a head coach, to find somebody that is going to build a culture within this organization, to find somebody that is going to have his hands in every aspect, because Todd Bowles was never involved in offensive meetings. Adam Gase was never involved in defensive meetings. He would give like a meeting and a film session to the defensive players, like a scouting report on the quarterback, but that was it. They need to get the guy that is going to be the manager of the team. And he's going to delegate offensive responsibilities to his offensive coordinator. He's going to delegate defensive responsibilities to his defensive coordinator. And he's going to manage the team. And if he sees a little weakness in the armor on the right, he's going to go to the right. If he sees a piece that needs to be polished on the left, he's going to go to the left. If he sees I need to take a big step back and assess what's wrong and then go to that problem and find the problem and figure out how we're going to fix it, he's going to do that. The best way that I can compare this to is when the Ravens hired Harbaugh, or when the Giants hired Joe Judge. Joe Judge was a special teams coordinator for the Patriots. And look at the way that roster is as talent deprived as the Jets are. And look at how he's kind of been able to get them to play competitive, solid football. That's the kind of guy that the Jets need to go out there and find. And it doesn't matter if he is coming from the college ranks. It doesn't matter if he's coming from the professional ranks. It doesn't matter if he's a coordinator. They just need to identify the traits that they want, which is what Joe Douglas has been working on. Find the coach that has those traits, and then they need to go out there and do whatever they can to get him on the Jets sideline.
All right. Well, the fact is Joe Douglas is making this move and he's had some time to get ready, right? They fired Adam Gase today, but this is a good question from Tom Schnurhow. He says, how much prep work has Joe Douglas done on scouting new head coaches and coaching teams? Because the fact is, Connor, even though they waited until now to fire him, it's been about 2 months that they've really been able to do this legwork, maybe not in front of Adam Gase, but behind closed doors.
They've been doing homework. This is not like the Jets go Adam Gase at 9. I mean, what time did it happen, Tim? Like 9:08, whatever the hell it 9:06.
9:07,
9:06.
5 minutes before you got to wherever you wanted to eat dinner.
Yeah, we'll give if you want to. I mean, I'm on the way home from New England right now. My pickings are slim. I'm not going to a steakhouse. I'm sitting outside of Chili's right now. I mean, it's not glorious road living right now. But and so before we get to that, we will do the inside story because I'm finally feeling a little relaxed. And my phone was blowing up, and I'm getting text messages here that I have to answer or whatever. But we were texting Tim because our plan was we had the story that we ran, the column that we had pre-written. Obviously, everyone in the world knew Adam Gase was getting fired. We ran that one. We ran the story on how Joe Douglas is going to be running point on this thing. We ran that one. We have another story that I haven't tweeted out yet on the potential candidates that the Jets can hire. We ran that one. But in the meantime, we were also all right, I mean, Tim, you, Marissa, and I have been talking about this for a month and a half, 2 months now. When the firing happened, we wanted to do a breaking news podcast. So you and I were texting back and forth because Marissa obviously has other responsibilities that she values significantly more than us, and views them as we're the redheaded stepchild, and I'm I have the red hair. I'm the redheaded stepchild. We don't matter to Marissa, so she has to put birds with friends.
That's
first,
so not true.
First, the
Browns made the playoffs for the first time since 2002. We all knew Adam Gase was going to get fired since week 6. So sorry, that was it. 18 years in the making.
Like I said.
Okay, continue.
So we didn't want to. Tim and I did not want to bother Marissa with our needs. So we were texting privately and going over plans. And Tim and I are texting and he goes, all right, I was like, I think it might happen around 8:30. And 8 comes, nothing happens. 8:30 comes. I'm driving home from Boston at this point. And Tim texts me, he goes, when should we have our cutoff? Where if it's not done at this time, we're not going to do the podcast until tomorrow morning. So I was like, let's call it at 12. If they haven't fired him at 12 a.m., it's not happening today. Obviously, let's just call it quits. And then I texted him back immediately. I was like, but just so you know, it's probably going to happen in 10 minutes because I'm about 8 minutes out from the restaurant I'm stopping at on the side of the road to have dinner. Sure enough, what was it, Tim? 8 minutes later, the announcement comes out 8 minutes. Was that something like 7, 8 minutes? Yeah, immediately.
I'm so happy that you sent that text because I was buckling in for a long night of waiting.
Coffee brewing.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. No, what was the question? Sorry.
There was a question.
Hey, no, we're like 10 minutes into this thing, and this is the first time I've gone off of my own tangent. And I've been up. I've been driving home. I left late last night. I'm all over the place. I'm sitting in my car and chilling. One guy asking me for directions. I don't even know the town I'm in right now. I mean, this is great. Real live potting.
I should have had you just stop at my parents' house for dinner. That would have been probably
Oh, the Mr. and Mrs. McMaster.
Your poor parents. Your poor parents.
Yeah. What was the question? I'm sorry.
I don't even remember. Was it the quote?
It was like he's had months.
How much
Douglas really been? Yeah.
Yeah, so this is not, I can't stress that. This has not been like, the Jets have known they were making this change basically since the Jets lost to the Broncos. And there was always like the outside chance that like, oh, if the Jets randomly won 8 games in a row and went, 9-7 or 10-6, like obviously they weren't going to be firing Adam Gase. Like they weren't going to be doing that. But when you think it's the possibility, you start to do you get your background homework done. You start doing your homework. And they have started to do that. I mean, they have their list of candidates they want to reach out to. They have the candidates that they believe have the traits that they want in a head coach written out. They have the guys that they're going to start sending their interview requests out for to try to get a jump start on this and get the guys in. Now, obviously, the people that they think are going to be the head coach and the people that they want might change dramatically once they actually get these guys in the building and start interviewing them. Or interview them on the Zoom. I don't know specifically how the COVID protocols are gonna impact in that regard yet. This team's head coaching search, but it's going to be it's a lot of this legwork is already done, and now it's just about taking that next step, which is having the interviews done, the guys coming in, the guys leaving, that kind of thing.
All right, that makes a lot of sense. Next one comes from this same line of questioning about Lefko Pudding Face. Congratulations on that nickname on the chat. He says, will the new coach be deciding the quarterback? And that's the next big question after who is the next coach.
Good question. Collaborative effort. That's the best way that I can put this, is that it's going to be a collaborative effort. Now, the next head coach the Jets hire will have a major say in it. It's not like the Jets are going to staple Sam Darnold to his hip if that guy doesn't believe in Sam Darnold. It's also, if that guy does believe in Sam Darnold, they are not going to say, well, screw you, we're drafting a quarterback anyway. This is going to be something where the Jets bring the head coach in, they sit him down with Jaime, their president, Christopher Johnson, Joe Douglas. They've decided on the head coach they want. The deal is done. The ink is done. They've got their head coach. They're doing their thing. And they go, okay, what do you think of the quarterback situation? And if that guy goes, Joe, Jaime, Chris, let me tell you, Sam Darnold's a franchise quarterback. He's our guy. I know I can make him a franchise quarterback. I believe in him. Very similar to how Sean McVay spoke of Jared Goff when he got hired with the Rams. Well, if he believes that wholeheartedly and explains why, and the Jets believe him, well, suddenly it makes sense to not trade Sam Darnold, but trade back from number 2, recoup a boatload of draft picks, and then continue to round out this roster and build it around Sam. If that coach that they hire says, look, I think that there's a chance Sam Darnold can be a franchise quarterback if we surround him with talent. With that said, I personally believe that the ceiling is higher for Zach Wilson out of BYU or Justin Fields out of Ohio State. I believe their ceiling is greater. Well, then the Jets are going to trade Sam Darnold for whatever they can get for him and move on with somebody else as their head coach or a quarterback. I'm sorry. So this is very much going to be a collaborative decision. This is very much going to be a working now towards the night. Who the Jets are going to have as their quarterback in 2021. Who's going to be under center? Who's going to be behind the shotgun? It's so tough to answer that question because, like I said, a lot of it has to do with the head coach they hire. Because when they hire their head coach and they bring him in here, they can then start working on who's going to be the quarterback. And if that head coach is in love with Sam Darnold, I like Sam Darnold's chances of being the quarterback in 2021. If that coach comes in here and says, look, Sam Darnold's a good kid, I think he has a chance to be pretty good, but these guys have a chance to be special, talking about Wilson, talking about Fields, well, the Jets going to draft their quarterback at number 2.
And we're going to talk, I'm sure, more about Fields and his performance on New Year's Day tomorrow on the podcast as well. We'll also go into a lot of the coaching candidates, but a few obviously have popped up in the chat, Connor. So we'll get your take on a couple. Abe Rothstein says, do you think the Jets have a real shot at landing Matt Campbell even without having Trevor Lawrence, or is that a deal breaker?
I don't know if it's a deal breaker, but I actually think I don't know if Campbell's all that interested in leaving yet. I don't know if that's something that he's. So I know Fitzgerald. The report came out was from CBS that he's somebody who's a little bit more interested or open to listening to NFL opportunities. So I would put him probably as a little more likely than Campbell. I mean, Campbell's reminds me of Matt Rule in that he's going to have that opportunity to pick his job. That he doesn't have to. At this point, he doesn't have to convince people to hire him. It's going to be what job do you want, and he's going to go get that job. So I would put Fitzgerald as more likely than Campbell, but that's just because I haven't gotten any read yet on if Campbell wants to leave. And I know in the past that was not the case. That Campbell didn't want to leave that job at Iowa State.
All right, Ryan Blake says, where do you rank the Jets as far as open head coach openings in the league? They don't have the number one pick. Obviously, that hurts. We'll see if the Jaguars have a head coach opening or not. We won't know that probably until tomorrow. But what do you think? How flashy is this Jets job with Joe Douglas? All the money they have to spend, all the picks they have lined up.
Oh, am I back? Sorry, I lost internet connection there.
We never lost you.
Of doing this in my.
Did you hear the question?
Yeah. Where would I rank the Jets coaching search thing?
Right? Where would you rank their opening as opposed to other openings?
Yeah, their openings.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry. I saw lost connection, which this Chili's parking lot isn't apparently the beacon of self-service, I'm guessing, and wherever I am in Connecticut, New Jersey, or Connecticut, USA.
Do you know what state you're in?
But in my head. So I know I drove through Rhode Island. I think I got the welcome to Connecticut sign. So I think that I'm here. But I would say that I would put Houston above the Jets because I believe that, and this is believed soon to be openings. I would put Houston above the Jets because you know what you have in Deshaun Watson. I would put the Chargers above the Jets, assuming Anthony Lynn is fired, as ESPN had reported, because you know what you have in Herbert. I would probably put the Jaguars above the Jets because of the Trevor Lawrence factor. But the Jets come in right after them. That's the Jets come in right after that because you do now have an opportunity with Joe Douglas. The Jets believe is going to be a beacon that's going to attract coaches here. You are going to have the opportunity to have a major say in who this team's quarterback is going to be, whether you like Sam Darnold or you rather have Fields or you rather have Wilson. So I would put the Jets right in there. I put Houston first, or Houston ahead of them, and the Chargers ahead of them. Just because you have quarterbacks that you know can play, like Watson's a borderline MVP. You see what Herbert did this year. I mean, people are going to want to work with him. And then obviously Trevor Lawrence is the generational passer, which puts him ahead of him. So what's that put the Jets like fourth? I would put them like fourth or fifth best opening on the market right now. And I think that'll hold too, no matter what happens in like if the Lions fire their head coach or if the Eagles decide to make a change or anything like that.
And that obviously makes it tricky because you don't know how that matches up with their wish list, right? I mean, if they have the same top guy as all those other teams, they're probably going to miss out on that top guy, but they may not. Joe Douglas may have another guy that isn't as high on everybody else's wish list. So we'll see how it all plays out as we go forward. THG Wicked 50 Cal. I have no idea what that is. I'm just reading these names that are in the chat. But he says,
Thanks.
Are there any predictions as to who on the staff could remain as stowaways for the next staff? Or do you think this is going to be a complete clearing out of the coaching staff?
Maybe Denard Wilson. He's pretty well respected. He's a young guy, really well respected in the NFL, and a young guy, and he's a secondary coach. So he's not going to be like defensive coordinator or anything. And he's, after the way the Jets played this year, he's not going to get defensive coordinator job offers. But if the next DC comes in here and interviews the candidates, it wouldn't surprise me to see Denard stick around again. Brant Boyer would not surprise me to see him stick as special teams coach. That's not uncommon for guys to keep the special teams coordinator because it's tough to get a good one, and the Jets do have a good one in Brant Boyer. Other than that, Dow Loggins probably. No, I'm just kidding. I don't.
Greg Williams will be back as the defense.
Greg's coming back. Yeah, the return of Greg. I don't think outside of those two, there's going to be too many over there. There's going to be some pretty significant change.
All right. I have this question. Do you know what you're going to order at Chili's tonight?
No clue. I have not been to a Chili's in years. I think the last I used to go when Bree and I first started dating, we were dating in high school. So there was a Fridays around the corner from her house. So I used to take my high school paycheck of like, $50 a week, and we'd go to Fridays for their Jack Daniel's burger. So I'm more of I know what I would get at a Fridays, but I haven't been to a Chili's in a very, very, very long time. And isn't this the place that Ricky Bobby and his dad got kicked out of? Isn't that, or is that an Applebee's? I don't know, like from Talladega Nights. I can't remember if they get kicked out of a Chili's or an Applebee's, but I'm a little nervous walking in here about what I'm going to get. I actually don't even know if they're still open. I hope they are. I think they close at 11. It's only 10, so I hope. Otherwise, it's going to be Subway, and that's going to be really bad.
I think
I'm not like fully gluten intolerant like Marissa, but like if I eat too much bread, I get a little bloated and a little tubby. So I'm trying.
Our loyal listeners might know that last episode you didn't even know what gluten was. So now,
now I do.
Now you're saying you're intolerant.
Yeah, now I've diagnosed myself with a minor gluten intolerance where I can have it, but I can't have a lot of it.
All right,
if I have a whole pizza, I'll feel upset. But I don't know if that's mentally because I'm like, you just ate a whole pizza, or if it's actually because I have a gluten intolerance. I don't know. I also get sick if I drink a bunch of beer, but that could also be the beer or the gluten. I don't really know. Is there gluten in beer?
Yes.
There is, although they do now have gluten-free beer also.
Really? I should try. You know what? That's it, Tim. We'll get a 30 of that and we'll just kick it and we'll see how we feel in the morning. And I will know that if we feel sick off of the 30 of the gluten-free beer, that is clearly because I drink too much compared to it's the gluten.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
We've opened up.
It's all for experiment reasons.
We've opened up things to food now in the chat. Applebee's getting more votes than Chili's, by the way. I would say the skillet
I don't know
queso.
Where the hell that is. There's a Wendy's across the street. That's not an option.
But Michael Dunn weighs in 1A with this one. Was there a food spread in New England? This was your last road trip of the year. You haven't had many road trips, and I know the food kind of this year comes in boxes, so nobody is weighing over a buffet. So what was the food like in New England?
The New England had their clam chowder that they always have every single year. I'm not a clam. I got sick off of, I think, an oyster. I went out for oysters with Bree and got really food sick. And I haven't been able to have like an oyster, clam, mussel, any of that stuff. Like I can't eat them because it just reminds me, and I just can't do it. But they had clam chowder. I'm not a big clam fan, so I didn't have much of that, but it's always good. Andy Vasquez swears by it. They had boxed wraps, which I tried 2 different kinds of them, trying to find one that was good. They were both terrible, which is literally why I'm about to walk into a Chili's. It was like so much goddamn mayonnaise in there. But what they did have was lobster rolls. They did have, I finally attended a Jets-Patriots game where they had lobster rolls out there. They usually save them for the playoffs. But with the Patriots,
but there's no playoffs in New
England. They had lobster rolls out there. Yeah. So I had the lobster roll. The lobster roll was good. Now, from what I understand, there are 2 different kinds of lobster rolls. There is like the New England lobster roll, which has like the mayonnaise on it. And there's another kind of lobster roll that's more dry and you put a little butter on top. Yeah. That one is better than this. This one had so much mayonnaise that it was. Is there gluten in mayonnaise, Marissa? Because I might.
No,
that might be another key.
No.
What you want is a very small amount of mayonnaise, and it doesn't have to be mayonnaise, but some sort of
the mayonnaise-like
thing to keep it together. But then it's all about the seasoning as well. That's on there, but. Yeah, if they really get it going with the mayonnaise, then they're serving it in mass production, which they were. But it's still, can't complain about a lobster roll. I will say, covering the Red Sox in the World Series in 2013 and 2018, after every single World Series game at Fenway Park, they had lobster rolls and clam chowder.
Okay.
And of course, Dunkin' Donuts coffee.
Not bad.
But, it was
the
Red Sox.
I still have the Dunkin' coffee here. That I loaded up. I've had like 4 cups already. You can probably tell that. And I grabbed another one before I left. Yeah, well, that's going to be my drive home. I wasn't actually going to leave, but then it started snowing when I was in New England. And I was riding the elevator with somebody who was clearly from Boston because they sounded like real, not like Tim's Boston accent where it's just zoom and room. It wasn't like that. Like this was full blown like pack the car. Like I rode the elevator with a pack the car, not a Tim Boston accent. And they were like, oh yeah, we're getting snow today. And I was like, oh, how much? And they were like, oh, not that much. And I was like, okay. I was like, well, I'm from South Jersey. So are you saying not much by your standards or by my standards? Because not much to me is like a dusting or like an inch. And they just kind of laughed at me. And I was like, that doesn't answer my question. So it started coming down. And I was out in like the concourse because you have to do like, if you're doing any kind of like TV or work like that, you can't be in, you have to be outside. So I was standing there and I set up my phone to do something like to record it. And within like 15 minutes, it was already like up to here on the screen. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know if this is going to stop. And I don't want to get snowed in Boston. And then baggy day, which is going to be weird because it's virtual tomorrow where all the players talk for the last time. That was like the baggy day was going to be at what was it? Baggy day was going to be at like 9:30. I was like, I'm going to have to leave at like 5 a.m. But what if I'm snowed in? What if I get stuck in Providence, Rhode Island? I was freaking out. So I was like, we're just going to get in the car and go and stop at a Chili's on the way home. And I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen in here, man. I'll take a picture and I'll send it out to you guys. Like the can't wait Chili's menu.
Whatever you're eating. I want whatever you ordered on Twitter.
Should I go risky? Like if I see like they got like a New York strip. Should I get like that? Like
they're known for their fajitas and baby back ribs,
really?
right? Is the whole commercial. I want my baby back.
Yes!
Baby back. So maybe go baby back ribs.
You know what? It's been a long year. Yeah, I'm gonna go baby back ribs. That's a good call. I forgot. I hope I can eat in here though. I don't know what I think I'm in Connecticut. I hope they have like open like indoor dining. Otherwise, I'm gonna be eating my baby back ribs in this freaking car.
No, you should be eating in your car. COVID safe. Let's go. Come on.
Yeah.
Well, I'm fine. I'm fine. I have to get tested twice a week anyway, so I'm good.
All right, we'll do one more football question before we say goodbye. And that is, what's the next step? What are the steps forward from here? I mean, we know who's making the decision. We know that, there's plenty of candidates out there, but starting now and going forward, where do the Jets go from here?
Yes. So step one is to take all of those coaches that they have the background information on and send out your interview requests and hopefully get the vast majority of those interview requests approved. Bring those guys in and interview them all for the first round of interviews. Then out of that first round of interviews, say, these guys impressed me. These guys did not impress me. Cut off the guys that didn't impress you. Have second interviews with those guys. Pick your head coach. Hire your head coach. After you hire your head coach, you then bring that coach in and you decide what the hell you're going to do a quarterback in 2021. And once you know what you're going to do a quarterback in 2021, everything else falls into place because then okay, if we're keeping Sam Darnold, we're trading back from number 2. If we're not keeping Sam Darnold, we're drafting this guy at number 2. Then you can say, all right, we're trading Sam Darnold. What are you trading Sam Darnold for? Say you get a 2 and a 5 for him. You then know, okay, we're going quarterback at 2nd overall. We're going to go cornerback at the Seahawks pick. With the first of our 2 second-round picks, we're going to go with an offensive guard. With our second of 2 second-round picks, we're going to go with a pass rusher. In free agency, you can say, all right, we've got one guard position solidified with the rookie. We're going to sign Joe Thuney. We're going to bring in Allen Robinson or Kenny Galladay. You can start to really build this roster, but it all starts with obviously picking your head coach. And once you have that one in, the rest of these puzzle pieces, you can start to finagle.
All right. Well, we're going to be back tomorrow with much more. The Jets players will be speaking in the morning. After that, we're going to react. We'll hear what they have to say, and we'll dive much more into what's going on with this Jets team going forward. So tune back in tomorrow, from work to keep your mind off other stuff you have to deal with in the afternoon. We'll be right back at you then. Thanks for joining us on YouTube tonight, and thanks for joining our breaking news coverage. Go to the Athletics new headlines section for much more in the story. To get access to all of the Athletics great sports content, visit theathletic.com/headline pod, where right now you can sign up for just $3.99 a month. Thanks for joining us.